ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. Let's offer our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. We can offer a flower at his lotus feet. In our deep meditation, let's offer our prayers and gratitude to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. सर्व शास्त्राभिप्यूष सर्व वैदिक सत्फल सर्व सिद्धांत रत्नाद्य सर्व लौकिक दृक्प्रद सर्व भागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवतो प्रभु कलिदंतोतिदादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वद सर्व सेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरु मद महादन मद निस्तारक मद भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधु तादा इन अति नीचोता कर हाना मुंचा कदातिन मा प्रेम न रित कंथयो स्पुरः ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं स्मृतं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी श्रीमतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तनं हृदयन्तस्य अभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतां ग्रन्थः श्रीमद् भागवतां की जय. Okay, so I'll just read one translation. So that we are not just doing this. Ocean Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, you are the most prominent transcendental fruit of the Vedas and are enriched with the jewels of all philosophical conclusions. You grant spiritual vision to all people of the world, and you are the very life breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has risen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. Actually, you are Lord Krishna who has returned among us. Shri Krishna Parivartita. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for joining. So, let's continue our discussion. Would anyone like to start with any sharing of realizations? You can also share what you have posted on the group. Let's start with maybe 3 points.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I posted in the group that how we are the product of our own desires. In fact, as you said in the last class, we can select our next life. And the Prabhupada is saying in the purport, the best type of body you can get is the spiritual body. So all we have to do is to transfer our attachments from material to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I like the point that everything that we do, even Ashtanga yoga or any process, it can only be perfected if there's a tinge of bhakti, like bhakti lakshana in there. And so I was thinking how fortunate we are that we have this like pure bhakti that Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya have given us.
Thank you. Actually, the more we read these aspects of the Shastra, we actually feel so much more fortunate and also grateful to Srila Prabhupada that the seed that he has given. So what does spiritual master do? He actually gives us the seed in the core of the heart. But what is the nature of that seed? The seed that Srila Prabhupada has given us is that on the basis of Anyam Bhilasita Sunyam Jnana Karma Jnana. No other desire other than desire to serve Krishna. And it is actually Bhakti Uttama, the highest form of the Bhakti. That is the seed that Srila Prabhupada is giving. Do personalities give other kinds of seed? Yes. Someone may give a seed based on Yoga Mishra Bhakti, right? And we are actually reading the section right now about Bhakti Mishra Yoga. I should say Bhakti Mishra Yoga. Right? So someone may give the seed of that. So they may talk about devotional service, but they may say you have to do Astanga Yoga and then Bhakti Lakshana with a tinge of devotion. But the seed that Srila Prabhupada has given, 100% pure Bhakti, Uttama Bhakti. Right? Very nice. Thank you. One more person would like to share? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
I was reading about how to get more absorption. More we spend time in devotional service of the Lord, Krishna gives us the gift of absorption.
That's an excellent point, actually. The more we give our time to Krishna, Krishna rewards us by giving us the gift of absorption at every moment. Thank you. So let's start. Yes, go ahead. Venkat Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, sorry. Whatever household activities that we do, we should not forget the prime duty of Krishna consciousness.
We should always be alert to our prime duty, our prime goal, which is actually to go back to further. And actually, one way I should say, our prime goal is Krishna Prema. We should always be alert of our prime duty. Right? Okay, so let's continue our section. So we stopped at text number 24, I think. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so very quick. What we are reading in the section is basically after Sukadeva Goswami has pointed out to Parikshit Maharaj, he has directly answered this question and he has given his opinion. Etad nirvidyamananam ichatam akutovoyam yoginam nripinirnina hare namanu kirtanam. He has given the essence of everything. What is the duty? What is the duty of everyone in all circumstances, particularly one who's going to die, is hare namanu kirtanam. That is the conclusion of the whole, the first section of this chapter, right? What should one hear? What should one chant? What should one remember? That we just Bhagwan Ishvara Hari, right? And of all these activities, the most powerful is Kirtan, Hare Namanu Kirtan, right? And actually among all different kinds of Kirtan, because one can do Leela Kirtan, one can do Guna Kirtan, the best form of Kirtan is Nam Kirtan, right? Okay, after that, so Parikshit Maharaj is thinking like, okay, if I have only 7 days, is that still the same process? Is that still the same process? And then he gives the example of Katwang Maharaj and says, yes, sure, all you need is just one moment. Right? One moment of complete absorption in the holy name, that's it, perfection. Right? And then after that, because Sukadeva Goswami is addressing so many people in the assembly and not everyone may, and they're like so many saints and their disciples, and then people may be thinking like, what, only Harinam Kirtan? That is too simple. That is too simple, right? No meditation. What about like Astanga Yoga? What about Karma Kanda? All those things, Vedas talk of everything. How can you make it so simple? The just chanting names of Krishna, right? And then to that, Sukadeva Goswami is now describing about Astanga Yoga. Right? So Astanga Yoga, step by step, he's gone through from text 16 through text 19. We talk of Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Right? And basically Yam is what? Leaving the house. And then he talked about practicing celibacy, right? That's the main aspect of niyam. Niyam, what is the main things? Niyam, he said the main thing is one should bathe regularly, one should go to the holy place and take bath in the holy rivers there. So that is niyam. Then asan, he said, sit in a secluded place. And then what do we chant? We chant Om, right? Trivrita. Trivrita means three sounds. Om. A, U, Ma. You chant Om, right? And then after that, he said, okay, that is pranayam. And what is the goal of pranayam? Who remembers what is the goal of pranayam? Because pranayam is so popular, everyone talks of pranayam. What is the goal of pranayam?
Controlling the mind.
Yeah, purifying the mind, right? He clearly says the goal of pranayam is to purify the mind. Yes, we purify our mind. And then after that, one may say that, okay, isn't pranayam enough? I'm purifying my mind, right? I can just do pranayam. Can I attain perfection with that? What is the answer here? Can I attain perfection just by doing pranayam? No, why not?
Some bhakti has to be there. Shraddha, faith.
Okay, but what is the point that particularly that Sukadeva Goswami is actually pointing out here?
Okay.
What is it, Mataji?
Like we have impurities from the previous births.
Yeah, because in the subconscious mind, there are so many impressions which are stored that it is not possible to eradicate those just on the basis of pranayama. And hence he actually says one should go to the next stage, which is actually pratyahar. Pratyahar means, yes, all these previous, I give the example of a hard disk. You may find files which are like 5-10 years old. It is there in your hard disk, right? And all of a sudden it pops up, And similarly, all those impressions from previous lifetime, it may pop up. But what one should do? Pratyahar. One should withdraw it, even though the desire comes, which is actually, maybe some lifetime, 10 lifetimes before we cultivate the desire. That may come up, but we should actually withdraw the mind. So we have to do pratyahar, right? And at the same time, so withdrawal is the negative aspect. What is the positive aspect? Positive aspect is we have to engage in dharana. Dharana means we have to fix our mind on the form of the Lord. Finally, it has to come to the attention on the form of the Lord. Then after dharana, what is the next stage? Dhyan. What is the difference between dharana and dhyan? You can say.
Dharana is focusing on the whole form of the Lord, and dhyana is focusing, zooming in and meditating on each limb.
Yes, so this is an important point that you have to remember that after the stage of dharana, we're just like focusing on the complete form. Dhyan is we are zooming in and meditating on each limb of the Lord. So this section actually, when we come to third canto, in teachings of Lord Kapila, this is explained elaborately. When he talks of dharana, he actually talks of how we meditate in a full form. And then he goes to each limb and he talks about the glories of each limb. He talks of the lotus feet, he talks of the thighs, and then he actually also talks of, when we talk of meditation, it is, yes, we are meditating on the lotus feet, but he also talks about the pastime associated with it, or the glory of the lotus feet. And he says like how this water that washes the lotus feet of the Lord is actually taken on the head by Brahma and Shiva. In that way, he actually explains each limb of the Lord with a glory, the glory of that part. Right? So in that way, that stage is called dhyana. And then finally, after dhyana, he came to the stage of samadhi. And the main point in samadhi, he says, where there is no other thought other than the thought of the focus on the form of the Lord. Where there's no other deviation, no other diversion. Right? The only focus is just complete, very fixed. That is. Okay. So then after this section, then Parikshit Maharaj asked, okay, you explain all this, but about dharana, he asked 3 questions. Right? He said, I want to know more about this stage of dharana. All right. And then he says, text number 23. Yes. Okay. Yes. Sorry, text number 22 is the question, right? 22. So he asked like 3 questions. One is, how is dharana accomplished, right? How can we actually accomplish this meditation of dharana? And then who is the, what is bona fide dharana shraya, right? Who is the object of dharana, right? And then we are reading 2 answers to this question. What are the 2 answers? And this is really important. So can someone say? Like when Parikshit Maharaj is asking this question, what is the bona fide dharana shraya? Like who is the object of dharana? There are two different answers that Sukadeva Goswami is giving. What are these two answers and what is applicable to whom? This is really important because the basis of the rest of chapter 1 and chapter 2.
The Virat Purusha and Paramatma.
Yes. And who should meditate? Who should select Virat Purusha and who should select Paramatma?
The neophyte or the beginner can focus on the Paramatma, but who cannot see it, then it's the Virat.
Okay, so the way that Sukadeva Goswami here, this section is explained, that those who still have attachments, you're going through the limbs of Astanga Yoga, but if you still have attachments, then you actually meditate on the Virat Purusha. But if you're at this stage of dharana, when you do pratyahar, you don't have any more attachment, then you can actually directly meditate on Paramatma, which is going to be chapter 2. Right? So today, hopefully, we'll come to chapter 2. I'm hoping to cover at least up to text 12 of chapter 2. We'll see how it goes. Right? Okay. So, and then third question is, how can one purify the impurities in the mind without any delay? Very quickly, right? And then in answer to that, in text 23, Sukadeva Goswami starts talking about the Virat Purusha. That's the first thing. And then he actually starts off and he says that, Jita Asana, Jita Swasaha, Jita Sangha, Jita Indriya. So 4 Jitas, he says. Jita means to control. He says you control your asana, your sitting posture. Swasaha, you control your breathing. Sangha, association. Indriya, senses. You do these 4, control these. And then he says Sandharayat. Sandharayat means one should apply one's minds to what? Stule. Stule Bhagavate. Stule means what? The gross form of the Supreme Personality. And when we say the Stule or the gross form, that actually refers to the Virat Purusha. Right? So, and then after this section, we actually talk about the Virat Purusha. So he says Sandharayat, one should apply the mind with the Dhiya. Dhiya means intelligence to the Virat Purusha or the gross form, gross potencies of the. Okay. Now text 24. He says, okay. So text 24. Did we read this? We did.
We did up to text 20. I think 25 or 26.
Yeah, I think 25 we did. Yeah, up to 25. Okay. So 24, just to summarize. So he says clearly, if you look at the text, he says, Vishvesha tasya dehoyam swa vishtascha stva vishaya sam. Right? So he basically says that this grossly material, if you see word to word, stva vishtaha, grossly material, and sta vishayam. Vishayam means everything. So all this entire gigantic manifestation of this material world is what? Visheshas tasya deho. Deho means one body, and Vishesha means this is actually this entire gigantic material manifestation is the personal body of the Absolute Truth. Right? So he started off by explaining the Virat Purusha by saying that this Virat Purusha is actually the personal body of the Absolute Truth. So that's the first point, right? There's a main, that this entire, we are talking about different planetary systems, but everything is actually a body of the Supreme Personality of God. Then, right, and then he also says in 24, he says, Bhutam Bhavishyam Bhavacha Sat, where he says, everything past, future, and present, everything can be experienced within this universal form, within this Virat Rupa. Okay. So, okay. So anyway, in the purport, Prabhupada is actually making the point that if you consider anything material or spiritual, everything is an expansion of the energy of the Lord. Right? So in the Brahma Samhita, there's verse in chapter 5, text 35, Ekopi aso rachitam jagadanda koti yet shaktir asti jagadanda chadananta. Which actually says that he is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between the potency and the possessor. right? So there is no difference between the energy of the Lord and the Lord himself. So that's why when one actually even meditates on the Virat Purusha, because it is the potency of the Lord or the energy of the Lord, one is actually getting the benefit of connecting to Krishna. But not directly, but at least that connection is there because you're meditating on the energy of the Lord, right? So that's the whole principle. And right, okay, and then let's see, and then two examples were given of the fire, right? So fire is in one place, but the energy, the heat and light is spread all over. So similarly, Krishna is in one place, but through his energies, he is all pervasive, right? And then example of the sun is given, that how the sun rays and the sun, right? So today sunrise is 1 hour later, at least for us, normally by this time the sun is already out, but now we see still darkness. But when the sun rays comes through the window, you say, oh, sun is here. Right? So one way, there's no difference between the energy and the Lord. And this is the basis of the meditation of Virat Purusha, because we are meditating on the energy of the Lord. Right? And then Prabhupada actually makes a point that that is actually the proof of the existence of the Supreme Personality of God, the Bhagavan. And how is the proof? Either revealed scriptures or the Lord, he personally comes down, right, again and again to show his form, or learned scholars and saints, they actually talk about the Supreme Person, Krishna as Sham Sundar, as one holding the flute, threefold bending form. All those descriptions are there. But in spite of all these descriptions, because people are so much in the mode of ignorance, they actually say, no, I will believe in God if you show me God right now. So for these people who say, I want to see God right now, show me right now, right? For these people, Krishna is actually giving this entire section of the Virat Purusha, because materialistic people, what is their mood? They see material things and they have some appreciation. Prabhupada points out that one may see lightning and say, wow, it's such an amazing phenomenon. Or he may see like a big mountain or oceans, or some like there is this the place where I grew up, close to that there was this like a banyan tree, and it was like so big. I actually went to a place. It's so big that once you enter, it's almost you're covered with the banyan tree from all sides. You cannot even see the end. It is so big, right? It's like you don't even know where the roots are starting and where the branches are coming down. It is so huge, and people are fascinated. It's like a tourist spot. People go and they see like, wow, this banyan tree is so amazing. It's just one tree, but it's spread over such a huge area. So there is some kind of fascination, right? But if that same fascination is taken to the next step and said, oh, so beautiful, but this aspect is actually, let's say, this represents, like for trees, he says, this is actually just the hair of some creator. Or we see the vast ocean or the rivers. You see, oh, these rivers, so beautiful, how they are flowing, how they are manifesting. But this is just the vein of the Lord. So we may appreciate nature. That is wonderful. But it will not become spiritual unless we take it to the next step, where we connect that aspect of nature to a part of that Virat Purusha. And we say, oh, actually the sun is just the eye of the Lord. And in that way, because we are taking that connection of the material to a supreme, that connection actually purifies the consciousness of the Astanga Yogi. And then by that, he can now meditate upon the Paramatma, which is the next stage. Okay? So this aspect is very important. So we should understand what is this Virat Purusha? Why is Krishna actually giving this description in Srimad Bhagavatam? And because people are accustomed to paying respect to material things, one can actually take it one level deeper and say, oh, this is the form of the Lord. And in that way, one will actually progress in his meditation. Okay, and then we read about this point, that how the Virat Rupa is simultaneously a challenge to the atheist, right? Why is this a challenge to the atheist? Because if someone comes and says, I am God, see, I can do this magic. I can do like this and produce an apple. or some ash, right? They do some magic trick and say, I am God. Then you can go and challenge that person and say, oh, if you're God, show me your Virat Rupa. Right? Then only I will accept. Like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he showed his Virat Rupa. Right? It is described actually Chaitanya Bhagavad that Advaita Acharya wanted to see the Virat Rupa of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested this huge Virat Rupa. And Nityananda Prabhu was walking close by. He knew, oh, Lord is showing his Virat Rupa. And then he came, right? He came to have darshan of the Virat Rupa. So, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, it is a challenge to all those people who like claim, oh, I am God. Say, okay, show me your potencies. And then in Bhagavad Gita, we see Krishna how he proved through his potencies that he is actually the Supreme. If you're God, then you should have that potency or energy to prove that you're God. And Krishna has proved that in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Right? And then the second aspect is the favor for the materialistic people. And what is a favor? That by I just explained that by meditating on the material aspect, they can gradually purify their consciousness. Okay. Okay, one more point, and then I will take the question. So, where does this Virat Rupa reside? Who is the Virat Rupa? Where does the Virat Rupa reside? Okay, so where does Virat Rupa reside? We discussed it last time also.
In this material universe.
Yes, in this material universe. So he actually explains this in 25. He says, Sharire Andakoshe. Andakoshe means within this entire universal shell. And what is this universal shell? So how we know from Karandaksha Vishnu? By his breathing, all these universes are coming into existence. Each universe is actually covered by this 7-layer shell, right? And 7-layer shell. So that 7 layers is actually earth, water, fire, air, ether, false ego, and Mahatattva. So these are the 7 layers of the shell, right? And each layer, as it grows, from the inside to the outside, is 10 times bigger than the previous layer. So all the bubbles coming, each Brahmanda has this 7 layers. And within that is actually the Virat Purusha. Right? So our material universe is actually 500 million yojanas breadth. Is the breadth of this material universe. 500 million yojanas. So, so within this is the Virat Rupa. Then who is this Virat Rupa? Then the gross body of this Virat Rupa is actually this universal form, which we will read in the last part of this chapter. That is the gross body. What is the subtle body? The subtle body is the sum total of all the living entities, which is actually known as Hiranya Garbha. So if you take all the living entities within this material Brahmanda, one Brahmanda, all that together is actually the subtle body of this Virat Rupa. And what is the super soul there? The super soul is Garbhadakshay Vishnu. So in that way, you actually describe. Okay, so this is who is the Virat Purusha. Okay, so Prabhupada and Purport is pointing out that how there's so many different manifestations of the Lord, right? Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishta. Ram Adi, so many different incarnations of that. So even that way, Virat Purusha is actually one of the expansions of the Lord, right? But who is the source of everything? Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The source of everyone is Krishna. So Prabhupada points upon that. So, and then he also says, Om Purnam Purnamada Purnam Purnat Udachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishate. Ishopanishad clearly said that even though so many complete units are emanating from this one personality, he remains what? Complete, right? So 1 + 1 is what? 1. In the spiritual realm, 1 + 1 is 1, because one complete unit has come out from the origin, but that unit is still complete. Or 1 - 1 is also 1. Right? So that is our spiritual mathematics. It still remains complete. Okay. Oh, there was this question in this Vijay Mataji asked this question, right? In this purport of 25, where Prabhupada says, the poor foolish materialist can just imagine how ignorantly he puts forward an insignificant creature to become his rival incarnation simply on the allegations of a dying man. So what does this mean? Simply on the allegations of a dying man. So Prabhupada is actually saying, see, if you see our limited experience that we have, right? What can we see? We see the sky about us and say like, oh yeah, so many stars, constellation. They find, oh, this is the Saptarishi, right? So all this, they see different constellations, right? And then we say, wow, the sky is so beautiful. And say like, and you find out something about this star here and say like, yes, I know. And the scientists feel so proud that yes, now we found out that is this North Pole is here, this is here. Now we know. But just consider how limited is that knowledge of that materialist, because this is just something that we are seeing here, and this entire thing what we are seeing is just like one tiny aspect of this Brahmanda, of the material universe, because material universe itself has 14 planetary systems. In each planetary system, there are so many planets. And where are we? We are in one tiny planet in one planetary system. And so how tiny is our experience? How limited? It's almost like nothing. We have no experience. Right? Still we feel proud. Right? And then after this, from this, so that's just one Brahmanda. And what we did, how Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Brahma actually came to meet Krishna in Dwarka, so oh, our universe is a tiny one, only hence Brahma only 4 heads, no more. That is enough for his administration. If it's bigger, then I'll give you more heads. Only 4 heads. This is just tiny thing, and there are universes much bigger than ours. And all these universes, each one has a 7-layer covering, and all universes is emanating from the breathing of Mahavishnu. And who is this Mahavishnu? This Mahavishnu is actually just an expansion of the expansion of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. Now, if you consider, if you see from Krishna, Balaram, first Chaturvya, Narayan, second Chaturvya, then Karanodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, and it is from that Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Brahma is born. And then we are, where are we? We are just in one of tiny planet. We are insignificant, so insignificant. And in spite of being so insignificant compared to that original Krishna, people have that audacity to claim that I am God. What are we in front of that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God? And hence Prabhupada is saying that, he puts forward an insignificant creature. What is our existence? So insignificant. And we say, oh, he's God. Krishna I cannot accept, but this person is God. This is just an allegation of a person. And who is claiming this? A person who is going to die. Person who's going to die. He may claim, I am as great as Krishna, right? And next moment he may have a heart attack and over. That is the allegation of a dying man. That is how foolish this is, to actually claim someone to be a rival of Krishna, right? So that's the point. Okay, 26. Okay, so from 26 onwards, okay. So before going into 26, is this concept of Virat Rupa or Virat Purusha clear? Right? Why is this described in Srimad Bhagavatam? And who is actually recommended to meditate on the Virat Purusha? Right? And what exactly is the Virat Purusha? Right? And then what else questions can we ask? So is the Virat Purusha actually a spiritual form of the Lord?
No.
Okay. So all these questions are clear? Any question? Because this is important. After this, then we can go into the description of Virat Purusha.
Prabhuji, in the purport of text 25, when we say about 7 layers, what is this noumenon?
Oh yeah. So this one, yeah, you asked that question. Actually, even in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, text 2, Krishna makes this point. He says, I'm going to give you knowledge which is both noumenal and phenomenal. Right? So phenomenal means something that we can perceive with our senses. That is basically of this material world. And then what does Krishna says in that? Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayur, Kam, Mano, Buddhir, Evacha. So this is phenomenal. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. We can actually perceive. But something that is beyond the perception of our senses, which is actually spiritual, is actually noumenal. So even this is actually Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in 7th chapter, text 2, he's actually saying, I'll give you the knowledge, both phenomenal and noumenal. Knowing this, nothing further shall remain for you to know, right? And actually, if you just search this on Google or just see some philosophy, this is actually, these two concepts are talked about in philosophy.
Yeah.
Where are they getting these two? There's phenomenal and noumenal. Where are they getting this from? It is that in Bhagavad Gita. So I know who actually came up with these two terms, but it is that in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So that's phenomenal. Okay. Any other questions on Virat Purusha? You're good?
So the reason why this description is there in Srimad Bhagavatam is to help those who are still materially attached, so that they have something to focus on, and hopefully that they can connect it to Krishna, and then they can become purified.
Yeah.
Is that under?
Yeah. Because Prabhupada makes a point, because materialists, they actually see things only with their own experience, right? So just like the Dr. Frog philosophy, right? You may say like, oh, okay, God, he must be great, but he may be maybe 5 times more powerful than me. That is the limited. And hence, because they are so limited in their experience and so bounded by this materialistic conception, that when you say that the Supreme God is actually a person playing a flute, they cannot accept it. They cannot accept that personal form of the Lord. So for them, it is one way you meditate on the impersonal aspect, right? Which is actually the energy of the Lord. You meditate on the impersonal, and through that energy of the Lord, you are directly, like somehow connecting to the personal form. May not be Krishna, but at least the Virat Purusha. And that way you will actually accept that, yes, God can be a person. And that itself, accepting God as a person and accepting this entire gigantic material manifestation as different parts of that person, will actually purify you. And then you can accept that, yes, God can be a person. Like, you know, that purifies our consciousness. And then we can come to a stage of accepting, yes, Krishna is a person. He's a supreme person. Okay. Is that clear?
Can we use this in our preaching, that we start gradually and not give immediately the topmost, or I don't know, Srila Prabhupada went directly into bhakti, but when we're preaching Krishna consciousness, should we also go like Bhagavatam is doing, like very, because they might not be at the level yet to accept Krishna?
Well, you know, one thing, like when we are preaching, like, you know, this is actually for Astanga Yogi. You can meditate on Virat Purusha and so on, and then come to Paramatma and so on. So it's step by step. But now in Kali Yuga, you know, who is actually really practicing Astanga Yoga? So if for preaching purposes, we can explain, like for someone who has no knowledge of God, you can at least explain in terms of Brahman, Paramatma. You don't really have to go into, like, you know, even if you see Brahman is the energy of the Lord. So one way it is the Virat Purusha itself, you know, but you, like if you explain that, oh, these planets are the feet of the Lord, people don't even know that there's 14 planets in the system. But you can explain in terms of the energy. That actually everything, material or spiritual, must be the energy of someone, right? Someone has created it. Who is that person? And then we can, from the Brahman, we can go into the conception of the Lord is actually there in the heart of everyone. He's seated in the heart of every living entity. And you can actually explain that in terms of, let's say, like, okay, we talk of karma, right? Everyone, like, you know, if you just explain them, they will accept karma. That they know that, you know, based on like the result I get is not always proportional to the effort I put in, right? And sometimes you don't do anything, you'll earn a lot of money. Sometimes you do a lot and you don't get any money. So that is a principle of karma. But if you see who is controlling this, and then you can say, well, karma can be understood that it must be a Lord. There's a God. And that actually God is seated in the heart of every living entity. And by that, he knows the karma of every living entity. And one person knows the karma. So we are spiritual, and there is one supreme spiritual consciousness who is actually a source of all of it. And then we go step by step. Okay, so let's go to text number 26. So 26 to 37 is a description of the Virat Purusha. So I will share one image I want to share. This is actually a devotee has made this based on the Rig Veda, but it's a similar description of Virat Purusha. But it's not like, completely accurate, but at least some, conception, so that we get that what description we are reading is actually the personal form of the Lord, right? It is through the impersonal energies of the Lord, we are actually coming to the point of, yes, that is a personality, right? So if you see here, you can see my screen, right, everyone? Yeah, okay. So if you see like Patala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Talatala, Sutala, Vitala, Atala, Bhulok, so we are right here, Bhuvarlok, then Swargalok, Mahalok, Janalok, Tapalok, Satyalok, right? 14 planetary systems. Now, all these 14 planetary systems are actually extended. The conception of this is actually extended into a form of the Lord, which is the Virat Purusha. Right? So this is how we read in text 26 that how the Patala Loka is actually the bottoms of the feet of the Lord. So here, if you see the arrow for Patala, it says it is bottom of the feet. Right? Then Rasatala is the heels and the toes. Right? Then Mahatala are the ankles of the Lord. Right? Ankles of the Lord. Like that. And then it says Talatala are the shanks or the calves of the Lord. And then if you see here, you say Patala, Rasatala, Mahatala on the left side, Atala, Vitala. So all different parts. Then Bhurlok, then Swargalok, Janalok, Tapalok, sun is here, galactic center. And this is one description of the entire planetary system as this form of Virat Purusha. Okay, but that is, I wanted to show this because what we are talking about is like one way a manifestation of this planetary system onto a personality of the Absolute. Okay. So now we will go a little bit fast. So everyone has access to Subodhini. And so if you have it, please pull it up. I have it. Ratnavika, you have the new version, right?
In my book, it's page 144.
144. Is it the same for others? Where you have the entire table of like the planetary systems, limbs of the Virat Rupa?
Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So just keep that open and then we'll just go through. So in every verse, you have like 4 or 5 different aspects and how that is, mapped onto the limbs of the Virat Rupa. Okay, 26. So we can start reading. So let's just do the English. We are starting with Arundhati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the Universal Lord, and the heels are the toes of the Rasatala planets, the ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his shanks constitute the Talatala planets.
Right, so 4 things have been explained, right? Patala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Talatala. And I already showed in that photo how we have these 14 planetary systems. Right? So different parts of the Lord. So Prabhupada makes a very interesting point in the purport. He says that when a materialist, even when we are a materialist is seeing the different aspects of the material universe, and if that his meditation on these different aspects is actually to take him further in his spiritual journey, he needs to develop a mood of service. Because even if we see such a river, we see a beautiful river, and if we don't connect it to Krishna, like to some supreme person, then there is no spiritual progress as such. There may be some appreciation, but there's no spiritual progress. But if we actually see the river and we have a mood of exploitation, oh, so beautiful river, let me go and do some enjoy in this river. If that enjoying mentality is there, then there is no question of progress. One needs to develop that mood of awe and reverence, the mood of service. Because the main thing is we want to change our service attitude from that of serving our senses to serving the Supreme. That is the whole aspect. Like how service, like how in Bhagavad Gita introduction, Prabhupada makes a point that service is the constitutional nature of every living entity. The nature of everyone is to serve, right? But who are we serving right now? We are serving our relatives, we are serving our family, we are serving our society, we are serving our nation, or finally we are serving our own senses. So all we have to do is we have to change our mood of service. And right, all this service is so that I can enjoy. Now the mood has to be, yes, I want to serve, but with the real mood of service, to please Krishna. Right? So Prabhupada is making the point that even this conception of the Virat Rupa, a person can make progress if the spirit is not of that of lording it over or exploiting material resources. You see, right now it is all of exploitation. You see a beautiful river and people think, how can I like exploit the river or enjoy the river in so many ways? But that whole mood needs to be changed, and Virat Rupa is giving a chance for the materialists to change that service mood. Right? And then okay. Yeah. And then also Prabhupada points out that how Sukdev Goswami is also, he's starting off the description of Virat Rupa from where? From the bottom, right? And that is the form of meditation for a devotee, because when he sees the form of Radha Golokananda, he starts from the feet and goes upward. So that also Sukdev Goswami has that devotional mood. Okay. And okay. Let's go to the next verse, text number 27.
The knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the two thighs are the Vitala and Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahatala, and outer space is the decoration of his navel.
So again, like there's no purport here, but four more things: Sutala, knees; Vitala, lower parts of the two thighs; Atala, upper part of the two thighs; Mahitala, the earth is the hips, and the outer space is the navel. Right? So I talked about this before. So if you see material in the material world with a material vision, who are you? A materialist. Because materialism in sense means a tendency of enjoy. You see any object, you want to enjoy. So it is material. If you see a spiritual object with a material vision, who is that person? You're seeing something spiritual and saying, oh, this is just material. That is a vision of a Mayavadi.
Right.
Right? And that's why he makes offenses. Because he sees the form of the Lord and he says, oh, Radha Golokananda, just marble. He sees a spiritual personality as a material. Now, if you see a material thing as spiritual, who is that person?
A devotee.
Okay, a devotee. And then you see a spiritual as spiritual. Again, devotee.
Devotee.
Right. So, but there is a distinction here. If he sees spiritual and spiritual, he's mainly a sadhaka. He sees Radha Golokananda and says, oh, this is the form of the Lord. He sees Bhagavad Gita, he gives respect, he doesn't keep it on the floor. He knows this is a spiritual Bhagavatam, spiritual book, so it's always kept properly. So spiritual he identifies. As we progress in our bhakti, then we see all material objects also in relationship to Krishna. Right? So I will end this entire section with a beautiful part from Chaitanya Charitamrita in a conversation between Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about how a devotee sees everything material and sees how can I use that in Krishna service, or sees that in relationship to Krishna. Right? So material is spiritual to material, sees spiritual and with material vision, he is a Mayavadi. Spiritual, he sees spiritual, is a sadhaka, and if he sees material as spiritual, then he is a Mahabhagavata. Okay. So next, text 28.
The chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. His neck is the Mahar planets. His mouth is the Jnanas planets, and his forehead is the Tapas planetary system. And the topmost planetary system, known as Satyaloka, is the head of he who has 1,000 heads.
Yeah. So here again we have Swarga as the chest, Mahalok as the neck, Janalok as mouth or face, Tapalok as forehead, Satyalok as the head. Right? So Prabhupada in the purport points out that the sun and the moon are actually, and we will come in the 5th canto, when you see the description, how the like the geography of the universe is there, you will see sun is actually almost in the center, right? Because it moves on the axis. But if you see the entire Sumeru mountain, you will see sun is actually in the center. So hence Prabhupada says, because in center, it is actually the chest of the Supreme Lord. So luminary planetary system. And then he also says, above that is actually the Swarga, the Mahalok, Janalok, Tapalok. And he says that all the chief directors of the modes of nature, namely Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, they reside in Satyalok. So we know Shirodakshay Vishnu, he actually resides in the Shwetadeep. Right? Beyond that. Yeah, okay. So nothing so much to explain in this. So we'll just continue our discussion. So 29. If you have any question, you can. Okay, yeah. Vijayamati.
Prabhuji, but we do see sun as the eye of the Lord, right?
Very nice. Okay, so that is actually the next section we're going to
But,
discuss.
but here in this 28, we read that it is the chest.
Yeah. So Prabhupada talks about that in the next part. So I'll come to it. Okay, so let's
And
continue.
also, Prabhuji, what is this referring to? 1,000 heads?
So even one way, the Virat Purusha can actually be like, how Krishna showed the Virat Purusha to Virat Rupa to Arjun. There, what is said Bhagavad Gita? 1,000-headed.
Okay.
So that's also a description of the Virat Rupa. 29, please go ahead.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, it's my turn, right?
Go ahead.
Yeah. His arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The 10 directional sides are his ears, and physical sound is his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the 2 Ashwini Kumaras, and material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing fire. Hare Krishna.
So one point here, Prabhupada actually says that how Bhagavad Gita also Krishna is showing the Virat Rupa to Arjun. Right? And then that same Virat Rupa is one way elaborately described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So Bhagavad Gita is giving one description, but this is giving even further description. So Prabhupada is making the point that both Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they are actually interdependent. They are both based on the science of Krishna, but Srimad Bhagavatam is what? The postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. Hence, the concept of Bhagavad Gita is explained more elaborately in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada makes that point. And then other point he says that how, like in this verse, how it says the arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The ears are the Dig Devatas, right? Organ of hearing. So even all the demigods are actually parts of this Virat Rupa. And Prabhupada is using this concept and making the point that if all the demigods are situated in that Virat Rupa, that means even the demigods are parts and parcels of the Supreme Creator. Hence, when we serve, when we worship that Supreme Personality, we are actually already serving the different parts of that Supreme Personality. So one need not separately worship the demigods. One need not be deviated from its path by the worship of so many demigods, because by worshipping that Supreme Form, all the demigods are automatically pleased. Like, if you're serving a person, like a guest comes to your house, and you're doing some service to him, it's not that you have to go and say like, okay, now let me serve your hand, now let me serve your stomach, let me serve your hand, arms. You don't have to serve each limb separately. Let's serve that person. The person is pleased, all the demigods are pleased. Similarly, when you serve Krishna, when you offer food to Krishna, all the demigods, everyone, because they are parts of Krishna, they are automatically pleased. Like how Bhagavatam gives that example, verse. This is Canto 4, text, chapter 31, text number 14. 4:31-14. It says, Yatha taror mulen nishchanena tripyanti tatskanda bhujo pasaka prana pahara cha yatendriyana tatheva sarva. sarva hanam ayuteja. It says just by pouring water on the root, all the different parts of a tree are satisfied. Similarly, by giving food to the stomach, all the different parts of the body are satisfied. Similarly, by worshipping the Virat Rupa and finally worshipping Krishna, all the demigods are automatically satisfied. So one need not take the risk, Prabhupada said, need not risk being misled by approaching so many different demigods. Okay. Okay. Another aspect that here, when in the Virat Rupa we are talking here, it talks of the year, right? Year, right? As a different demigods. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that when we talk of the year, that already includes the year, the aspect of sound, right? Year means the aspect of sound, right? And the aspect of hearing, and that aspect of hearing is actually controlled by a demigod. So we'll come to this later in the 5th chapter, where it is explained that each limb, each organ, like whether you say seeing, eyes, is controlled by a demigod. Hearing, ears, controlled by a demigod. So by making this point, he's saying that all three aspects are there. When he's talking of ear, that means the organ of ear is there, the aspect of hearing is there, sound is there, and the demigod controlling that. All aspects are actually there in the Virat Rupa. Okay, text 30.
Hare Krishna. The sphere of outer space constitutes his eye pits, and the eyeball is the sun as the power of seeing. His eyelids are both the day and night, and in the movements of his eyebrows. The Brahma, similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything in his tongue.
See here Vijay Mataji's question comes. Prabhupada makes a point in purpose. That, it appears like a contradiction. Before we read the sun is actually the chest, right? And now we are reading sun as the eye. Isn't that a contradiction? So what is Prabhupada's answer here? Who read this section?
Just read the Shastra and believe it. That is the truth.
The Prabhupada says, like, one way we can use our common sense and say, like, oh, no, this is such contradiction. So Prabhupada said, don't focus on common sense. Because with our common sense, first of all, we are so limited, right? We are so limited in our understanding that how can we actually understand? So Prabhupada says, but there is no room for common sense. Just accept the description of the Shastra. Why? Because common sense is always imperfect, but the description of Shastra is always perfect. Right? We could have so many different conceptions and then always come to a point of error, right? Make mistakes, right? That's one of the nature of one of the 4 defects of conditioned soul. We are illusion, we make mistakes, right? But the Shastras, they are always the highest Praman. They will never make any mistake. There are no mistake in the Shastra. So they are perfect and complete. So we just accept the Shastra. Right? So the point of, like, when you talk of meditation, one may say, okay, sun also chest, eyes also chest. Sun also the chest and eyes also the sun also the eyes, right? So what of the meditation? It is fine because we are actually meditating on Virat Rupa. So one way we can, when we see any luminary object, whether sun, moon, we can meditate on the chest of that Virat Purusha. Or we see the sun and the moon, we can meditate on the eyes of the Virat Purusha. Because the whole point is this Virat Purusha is also a form that is just described so that we can connect the material with a personality, with a spiritual personality. So even though one may connect either the sun with the chest or the sun with the eye, the purpose is served in this case. So we should just accept the Shastra and then the person will be served. Okay, text number 31. Text number 31.
Text 31. They say that the Vedic hymns are the cerebral passage of the Lord, and his jaws of teeth are Yama, god of death, who punishes the sinners. The art of affection is his set of teeth, and the most alluring, illusory material energy is his smile. This great ocean of material creation is but the casting of his glance over us.
So it's very interesting in this verse. It actually says, first point is jaws of teeth are Yama. Anyone remembers in chapter 11 how Virat Rupa is actually described. When Arjun sees the Virat Rupa, what does he see? He sees all the different soldiers, personality on the battlefield. They're actually entering into the mouth, and he sees them half crushed, like half from outside. That's the description given in Bhagavad Gita. Here, what is said? Well, this jaws of teeth are Yama. So you can see one-to-one correlation there, right? One-to-one correlation. And the god of that who punishes the sinners. And this is interesting. The art of affection is a set of teeth. And most alluring, illusory material energy is a smile. Okay, so what is this? So Prabhupada actually makes a point. He says, when we say that allured by materialism, then I'm looking for one sentence in purport. Yeah, the conditioned souls who are allured by such materialism should know that the material temporary creation is simply an imitation of reality, and that those who are captivated by such alluring glances of the Lord are put under the direction of Yamaraj. Okay? So, like the main point is here. Okay, so if we are captivated by the alluring glance of the Lord, then we are under the control of Yamaraj. If we are captivated by the Lord Himself, then we are under the, and then we'll go back to Bhagavad. See, here in this Virat Purusha, the description is this entire material creation, how is it formed? By the glance of the Lord. Maya Dakshena Prakriti. Dakshena means the glance. Because the Lord glances over this material nature, hence everything is set forth. And with that glance, He impregnates the material nature. So everything is happening by the glance. So the last part is, this great ocean of material creation is a casting of the glance of the Lord. Right? So that is that part. Right? Now, the remaining two parts, art of affection is a set of teeth, and most alluring material energy is a smile. So when we are actually captivated by anything of this material nature, one way, that is the smile of this Virat Purusha. One way, the smile of this Virat Purusha. So Prabhupada is explaining that actually this Virat Purusha is a projection of that absolute truth into the material domain. So if you are captivated by the smile of this Virat Purusha, then that means you are captivated by the material creation. And that means you'll be under the control of Yamaraj. But if you are actually captivated by the smile of that original personality, Krishna, then you will go back home, back to Pada. Right? How it actually says in 3rd canto of Bhagavatam, it says, if one meditates on the smile of Krishna, right, on Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, he says that meditation dries up oceans of tears of our existence of so many lifetimes. So many lifetimes, there's like so much suffering that we have experienced. And all that suffering together, if you put like an ocean of tears, all that ocean of tears is dried up in a second by meditating upon the smile of Krishna, the beautiful smile of the Lord. But if the same smile, which is actually the attraction in this material nature, if we are attracted by material things, then we will be caught up here in this material nature. So what is this? Yeah.
In the Subodhini, the smile is compared to Maya, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Maya, right? That's exactly, yeah. So that's what I'm saying, right? So if you compare, if you actually focus on the smile of this Virat Purusha, that is the material attraction that we feel to material objects.
When we see Lord smile, is it Maya? I'm confused here.
Yeah, so see here, the smile is not that of Krishna and Radha Golokananda. Here, the smile is that of the Virat Purusha, right? And Virat Purusha smile is actually compared to what? Is actually some beautiful material object, right? Which we are attracted to. We may see some nice material object, be attracted to that. That attraction is actually compared to the smile of that Virat Purusha. So finally, see, it is this object of, it's a concept of reflection. If you see in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, how is the material world and the spiritual world described? Just like a reflection, right? If you see on a tree on the bank of a water, then the original is on top, but the reflection is upside down. So if you see in the spiritual world, the most attractive is what? The smile of the Lord. Now that same, when it's reflected into the material realm, that smile is actually some beautiful material object. So attraction to that reflection is actually a cause of our bondage. Attraction to the reality is a cause of our going back home, back to God. Okay. Arundhati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The Virat Rupa, it's like a fearful form, right? Do we see smile? It's blazing fire and
See in Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter, we see that how Arjuna is seeing that Virat Rupa is so fearsome that the soldiers are getting trapped between the teeth, and we read like how the jaws of the teeth are actually Yama, right? Death itself. So is there a smile? Well, here the point is actually said that when we see some beautiful material thing, we allude to some beautiful thing, that is compared to the smile. So as I said, one way the Virat Purusha is not like, you can say, okay, I'll go and meet the Virat Purusha. It is a projection of the Lord into this material world. Right? So it is not like, one may get liberated and go to the Virat Purusha Loka. There is no Virat Purusha Loka. It is just the projection, right? So we have to understand it that way. So, so practically, what does this mean for us? That when we are attracted to some material thing, we can think about it. That this is actually, we are attracted to some material thing, but that attraction is just to the reflection. It's just a reflection. So just like if someone likes a nice food item, gulab jamun or something nice, right? And then I invite you to my house and say, oh, please come for dinner tonight. And instead of serving gulab jamun, I just show you a photo. Here, this is for you. Please accept this. No, I won't do that. So please come to my house whenever you can. But if I just give a photo, you'll be like, what is this? What is the pleasure in this? Right? But by seeing the photo, you know that reality is there somewhere. Similarly, when we are attracted to something, then we should say, oh, this is just a reflection. But how much nectar is there in the original thing? So that way we can actually project all our attractions in this material realm and say, like, even if we think there is some pleasure here, how much more pleasure will be there in the reality. So that's the point.
Prabhuji, I don't remember either in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, but isn't it we have read this before, that anything beautiful in this material world is actually the smile of Krishna? No, I mean, we can meditate on that. Anything, it's the anything beautiful that we see in this material world. Oh, when we see, I remember reading this. Oh, when we see the sunrise, right? It's so beautiful, right? Or the sunset, it's so beautiful. And then, so I don't remember, maybe the where we have read this before, that it is actually the smile of Krishna. We can relate to that. Maybe we will find it later. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we discussed that.
We read it.
I remember that. We discussed that. And, for devotees, if you see something beautiful material, and if you remember the smile of Radha Golokananda, then for sure, that is perfect. That should be the vision of a devotee. Right? But, yeah.
So, Prabhuji, can we compare, like, this Virat Rupa, like, say, for example, take an organization and say different departments is as, different parts of the, the intellect, or, intellect and, working class, something like that.
So that actually will come later on. So last verse 37 will actually say that how the face of the Virat Rupa is the Brahmanas, the eyes of the Kshatriya. Okay, this concept of smile is okay. It is just a reflection. So anything we are attracted to, actually we are all looking to get attracted to the original smile of Radha Golokananda. But we are actually, because we are conditioned, we are attracted to material objects. So it is just a reflection. Okay, now let's go to the next 32. Okay, 32.
Sarvarit.
Go ahead.
Okay. Modesty, 32, right? Modesty is the upper portion of his lips. Hankering is his chin. Religion is the breast of the Lord. And irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world, is his genitals. In the Mitra, Varunas are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and the mountains are the stacks of his bones.
We see the hills and mountains, and we remember this as a stacks, the bones of the Lord. Then the ocean is the waist, right? And then Prabhupada actually focuses on this point. See, it says Brahmaji is actually considered to the genitals of the Lord, of this Virat Purusha, right? Because it is from Brahma, who is the main creator in this material world. So he's compared to the genitals of the Lord. Right? So Prabhupada is using this point to actually say that even when we consider Virat Purusha or Virat Rupa, this Virat Purusha is actually has different organs serving different purposes. So even when we actually meditate on the Virat Purusha, there is no concept of the impersonal Lord. So Prabhupada is one way using this point to deny impersonalism, that even when we meditate on the different material objects and connect it to different limbs of the Lord, that means that there is a person, right? Because Brahma is the genital, and it is from Brahma there is a particular task of creation that's happening. So that means even a Virat Purusha is a person. So that's the whole point, is we are actually taking the mind of the materialist from an impersonal to a personal, which is Virat Purusha, and finally to the person, that's Krishna. So, okay. Prabhupada actually in this he says, one can, however, worship the Lord even by seeing hills and mountains or the ocean and the sky as different parts and parcels of the gigantic body of the Lord. So not only we appreciate nature, but we actually connect nature with Lord and say, oh, this is so beautiful. Like we see a beautiful, beach, we see ocean, right? And you can say, oh, this is all the creation of my Lord. And that way we remember Krishna. This is what devotees I'm saying. Okay, 33. And after Sri Radha Mataji, Venkat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. O King, the rivers are the veins of the gigantic body. The trees are the heirs of his body, and the omnipotent air is breathe. The passing ages are his movements, and his activities are the reactions of the three modes of material nature. Hare Krishna.
So 2 points are important here. Activities are the reactions of three modes of material nature. So everything that happens to us is a reaction of either the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance, right? You remember that painting in Bhagavad Gita, that one with strings, right? Like controlling us. So everything that's happening to us is a reaction of the three modes. But when a materialist, like this is for the Astanga yogi who's on that state, if he sees everything that's happening to him as activity of the Lord, then by that he is actually connecting to a Virat Purusha. The whole concept is to change our consciousness from just like me consciousness to actually at least accept some supreme creator consciousness. Accept some supreme creator consciousness. So the activities are the reaction of the three modes. And how does a devotee see all the reactions to the three modes? And what is the example, perfect example we just discussed in Bhagavatam? What is our vision supposed to be when we are faced with a reaction of the three modes of material nature?
arrangement of
Okay.
Supreme.
Of
Providence.
Krishna himself. Okay, and then what else?
Even if we get a bad thing, like even we deserve more, but Krishna is so merciful. He gave less.
Say that this is just a token Krishna is giving me. And why is Krishna giving me this? Is Krishna to be blamed now? Why?
So that I remember Krishna more and more. When we are put in difficulties, that we
Yes.
remember Krishna more.
When you put in difficulties, we really chant the holy name, we take shelter. Yes. Anything else? See, we remember that for devotees, our vision is when we get some reaction, from the three modes of material nature. Okay. Anyway, actually for a devotee, there's no karma, but anyway, I'm not going to that discussion now. But whenever we get some reaction, we say, yes, Krishna has just given me a token. And Krishna is giving me this token of what I deserve just to teach me a lesson. And at the same time, we have to think that, yes, Krishna is the all merciful, all benevolent Lord. Because if you say, oh, the situation, actually it's all Krishna, then if you don't accept that Krishna is actually so merciful and he's so loving, then we'll tend to blame Krishna. Right? If you finally say Krishna is the cause of all causes, so something bad happens with it, it's all Krishna. Then at the same time, you have to say that Krishna is a loving father and he's giving this for my own purification. Because if you don't complete that part, then you'll say, oh, Krishna is the cause of all cases and Krishna did this to me. Oh, why Krishna? Why did you do? We'll start to blame Krishna. You see the point? That you have to complete that, yes, Krishna is the most merciful Lord and he's giving this for my own purification. It's okay? Everyone gets this point? Yeah? Okay. So that is activities. Then second very nice point is he says the progress of time is the movement of the Lord. So whether it is past, present or future, Krishna, here the Virat Purusha, that personality knows everyone. Because that movement of that personality is the three phases of time. So nothing happens without the sanction of that Supreme Being. So that is the meditation. Okay. And then Prabhupada also in the purport, he says, the mode, he quotes Bhagavad Gita 7:12. He says how the modes of nature act in the direction of the Lord. Ye chaiva satvika bhava rajasas tamasas, that all states of being, goodness, passion, and ignorance, is actually manifested by the energy of the Lord. Right? It is not the Lord himself, it is through the energies. And then Prabhupada quotes this verse, na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, na tat samas chabita drishyate parasya shaktir vividaya shruyate swabhaviki jnana balakriya cha. So you'll hear in Prabhupada's classes these last two lines he often quotes. Parasya shaktir vividaya shruyate swabhaviki jnana balakriya cha. Right? And what does this mean? That the Lord actually, he has nothing to do. Right? And the Lord is not that, okay, I have this to-do list to do and I have to do this, I have to create this material world, I have to maintain this, I have to provide this. No, it's not. The Lord has nothing to do. Na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate. Right? And then swabhaviki jnana bala kriya cha. But still everything is happening with what? Jnana bala kriya cha. It is all by the energies of the Lord that everything is manifested. The Lord personally, he doesn't have to do anything. But through his energies, everything, the three modes of material nature, the reactions, the movement of time, everything happening by that. Okay?
What is this verse from?
Na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate.
Yes.
This is from Shvetashatar Upanishad. The frequently quoted verse, like even in Prabhupada's purpose you'll find, and also in the classes. If you just search na tasya, N-A, tasya, T-A-S-Y-A, na tasya karyam, K-A-R-Y-A-M. These three words you search in Google or on Vedabase, you'll find it. Okay. And then Prabhupada concludes this section and he says, like, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. And okay. So that's good. That's so text number 34. So maybe you can do 34 and 35, the next person. No purpose to both.
O best among the Kurus, the clouds which carry water are the hairs of his head, the terminations of days and nights are his dress, and the supreme cause of material creation is his intelligence. His mind is the moon, the reservoir of all changes. Text 35. The principle of matter, Mahatattva, is the consciousness of the omnipresent Lord as asserted by the experts, and Rudra Deva is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, and elephant are his nails, and wild animals and all quadrupeds are situated in the belt zone of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
So here in the 35 it says Vijnana Shakti is his consciousness. Right? So that is basically the point, that the consciousness is the principle of matter, Mahat Tattva. And then also Chakravarti Pad says that Sanskrit word Ashwatari is there. Ashwatari Prabhupada translates as a mule, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying it's a cross between a donkey and a female horse. That's a mule. That's a Ashwatari. Right? So anyway, we can continue. Yes, Vijayamati.
Prabhuji, again, here we are reading that the days and night are the dress, and earlier we read that they are the eyelids, movement of the eyelids, and we read that moon is in the chest, and here we are saying is the mind, and then we said that the demigods are the arms, and here we are saying that Rudradev is his ego. So either way we can just meditate on the Lord. That's the purpose. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's also explain 36. This 36 will explain 2 points. Purport.
Hare Krishna. Varieties of birds are indication of his masterful artistic sense. Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. The celestial species of human beings like the Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Charanas, and angels all represent his musical rhythm, and the demoniac soldiers are representations of his wonderful prowess. Hare Krishna.
So this is really nice, and very practical also. Like we see birds, right? And birds are like so many varieties and so beautiful. Like, when you go to Vrindavan, you see all these parrots. You can see like so bright green color, and then they make so beautiful sounds. So many nice sounds. And so here the meditation is the variety of birds are actually indication of his masterful artistic sense. So even the Lord is so artistic that he has created all these beautiful birds, each with different colors and each having so many different varieties of sounds. Now, so this is very practical also. When we see different birds chirping, we can actually meditate that this is all a creation of my artistic Lord. Okay, and why are there so many birds with so many different colors? What is the answer? Like so many different birds.
Krishna likes variety.
Krishna likes variety. Okay. What else? Why are there so many birds here in this material world? And so beautiful. It seems like
different consciousness.
Krishna has created these birds so that we get attracted to material nature and say, oh, material nature is so good. Is that right?
No.
No? Okay. Then?
Maybe desires, Prabhuji, like...
Okay. So one point is certainly that of desires, that the living entity has so many desires. Like see, each living entity is like unique in that way. They have a unique set of desires. And by that desire, Krishna has made arrangement of 8.4 million species of life. And whatever your desire, there's a place for you. You can go and stay. So there, if someone wants to be beautiful, have the desire even at the time of death, it's I just want to be beautiful. I like this color, and it's okay. Yeah, become a bird. So Krishna answered. he's giving facility to actually fulfill the desires of all the jivas. That is first point. Second point is, when we actually see these beautiful birds, we can actually meditate that someone must have created these. It is not just by chance that all of a sudden like a beautiful bird has come with such nice sound, or you see a flower, and if you actually zoom into a flower and see how the flower petals are so nicely organized, it's like so beautiful. Someone must have created it. So the beauty of the creation should actually lead us that how much more beautiful the creator must be. So that should be. Okay. Then that is the first about birds. Then second, he says, Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of standard intelligence. So Prabhupada says, from Manu comes this book called the Manu Samhita. The Manu Samhita is known as the law book of mankind. Right? Law book of mankind. Prabhupada says, all human society is advised to follow this great book of knowledge known as the Manu Samhita. Right? So once in the conversation with Prabhupada, they actually talked about Manu Samhita, and Prabhupada said, if you read the injunctions of Manu Samhita, you will faint. It is like so many instructions, and for us Kali Yuga Jiva, it is may not be practical to follow all those instructions. But the principle is there that Manu Samhita is actually, Manu refers to Manushya, mankind, Samhita, a book of law for the human society. Right? Then after that, he says the humanity is the residence of Virat Purusha. It's a very interesting point. The Prabhupada says, why does it say humanity is the residence of the Lord? Because it is actually the human society which has the ability to actually reach out to Lord. And hence, humanity is actually the residence of the Lord. Because only the human society can actually ask, who is Krishna? Who is God? How can I connect to God? And so on. Okay. That's that. And then he also says the celestial species of human beings like Gandharvas, right, Vidyadhara, they all represent the musical rhythm of the Lord. Okay, and the last one he says is demoniac soldiers are the representation of his wonderful prowess. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this could actually mean the prowess or the memory. Right? That's the Sanskrit word, would actually mean prowess or memory. And Prabhupada also in the purpose says that this is actually referring to Prahlad Maharaj, because he's born in the family of Asuras, but he is the right type of representative of the Lord to actually indicate the wonderful prowess or the wonderful memory. Okay, and Prabhupada concludes this section with a very nice sentence. This is somewhere in between. He says, disruption in the matter of discharging the specific duty assigned to each and every living being is the cause of disharmony between one living being and another. But when the relation is re-established in relation with the Supreme Lord, there's complete unity between all living beings. So Prabhupada is saying, in this purport, we talked about birds, we talked about the Manu, we talked about celestial beings, the human society, and then demons, so many different varieties of personalities, right? But if all these personalities understand their duty in relationship to the Virat Purusha or the Supreme Lord, then everyone can work in harmony. The reason there is actually conflicts in the human society is because no one is actually realizing their connection with the Supreme and duty in relationship to that connection. Right? You understand this point? The whole reason for conflict is because we are not recognizing what is our true duty in relationship with Lord. Right? And that will actually cause harmony. And Prabhupada concludes this purport by telling the story of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jharkhand. Okay? So when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Jharkhand, this is a beautiful, it's so sweet actually, this entire pastime is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Then one day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going through a forest of Jharkhand, and then he saw a tiger, just on the path, right? And then he touched the tiger with his feet. He touched the tiger with his feet, and then the Lord said, chant the holy name of Krishna. And the tiger immediately got up and began to dance and chant, Krishna, Krishna. You can I don't know if anyone can make the imitation of a tiger saying Krishna, Krishna. But you can just imagine a tiger is like jumping and chanting Krishna, Krishna. And then it actually says, then another day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was bathing in the river. And then a whole group of maddened elephants came to that river. Maddened elephants. What did Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do? He actually took water and then he splashed it on the elephant. And then he said, chant Krishna. And all the elephants, is described, began to chant Krishna, Krishna and dance and sing in ecstasy. Some of the elephants, they fell to the ground and some of them were screaming in ecstasy. This is how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was making the animals. The maddened elephants were screaming in ecstasy, rolling on the ground and chanting Krishna, Krishna. Right? And then it says, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going through a forest, then all the, because he was singing so nicely, all the does, they actually started following him. And then on the left and right of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were these does. And then even the tigers were attracted by the sweet chanting of the Lord. So then the does and the tigers, they both started following Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? And then it is described, 5 or 7 tigers came. Joining the deer, the tigers began to follow the Lord. Seeing the tigers and the deer follow him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately remembered the land of Vrindavan. Because in Vrindavan, all living entities, even the tigers and the deer, they actually are in complete harmony. Complete harmony, right? And that is real Vrindavan. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them, chant Krishna, Krishna. And then the tigers and the deer, they began to chant Krishna and start dancing. And then it described, when all the tigers and the deers, they dance and jump, then the tigers and deers, they begin to embrace each other. Can you imagine a tiger and a deer are embracing each other, and then they are touching the mouths and they began to kiss each other. This is all in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm directly reading from that. Okay? And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he saw the deers and the tigers kissing each other and then chanting Krishna, Krishna, then he saw all the fun and he began to smile. Right? And then various birds, they actually started singing along with Krishna. And that's why all living entities of Jharkhand, even the trees, the creepers, everyone was maddened with love of Krishna chanting the holy name. This is a description. So how, when we actually connect to Krishna, not only there is complete harmony, but beyond that, there is actually love, even between living entities, even those of opposite natures. Like a tiger and deer, completely opposite. But even these animals are actually kissing each other and chanting together. And that is the power of the holy name. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, just by this Harinam Sankirtan, everyone, this is the real formula by which there can be peace in this world and harmony in this world, and everyone can live in a loving, cooperative spirit. Just by this Hare Krishna. Okay. You have a question, Shreya?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I was wondering about going back to the discussion of the different birds. So how do we understand when we see beautiful different colored flowers and the fruits and all that? I was thinking, I mean, this is more because in the spiritual world, Krishna wants variety, and our world is a reflection, and we have some variety of spiritual world. Is that the correct understanding for you?
So reflection also is true. Yeah, this is a reflection. So because we have a desire to enjoy, see, like how we say, we are all, we're in the spiritual world, and then we have desire to enjoy separate from Krishna, and Krishna is a loving father. So how like a child wants to say, a small child, he says, Father, I want to take charge of the house. From now on, I will write the checks, I will do all the bills, everything. Father says, child, such a small child, there's time for him to play, and he wants to do all this. Okay, if the child really wants to do it, in my backyard, I will create something that looks like this house, but it's just like a reflection. And then he puts everything that's in the house there also, so that the child can actually see that, oh, here also the same things are there. And then he just has like a toy home, but he said, okay, now I can write the checks here, I can enjoy, I can do this. But, so that is, so the material world is a reflection, and the loving Father, Krishna, has given us one way, all the things here, so that we can try to fulfill those desires separate from Krishna. But gradually our process is, we realize that everything here is a reflection, and then use that and connect it to the source. And in that way, we actually can go back home back to God. Okay. Venkat Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
1 minute, 1 minute. Shrirani Mataji, sir. Yeah. So also the point of desires is there, that based on desires, 8.4 million species are there, and then also this point of interest. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Prabhuji, in the verse 35, Rudradeva is ego. Here Rudradeva refers to Lord Shiva, Prabhuji. Can you explain a little bit more on that?
Yeah, Rudradev refers to Lord Shiva for sure. Like, again, we are talking of the Virat Purusha. So the Virat, that person, also has ego, right? And that ego is actually represented by Rudra. So if you actually consider, see, earth, water, fire, air, ether, that is just our gross body. But beyond that, mind, intelligence, and the most subtle of all elements is what? The ego. And that most subtle element is actually represented by Rudra, because Rudra is the principle by which the Lord is actually interacting with this entire material world. How does the Lord actually, when he glances on the material nature, the glance of the Lord is completely spiritual. But how will that interact with material? That the glance itself becomes Rudra, and that Rudra actually interacts with the material world. Right? So how Brahma Samhita makes this point, that it is just like milk transformed into yogurt. Which is that verse?
Kshiram yatha dadi.
Yes, Kshiram yatha dadi vikara vishesha yoga sanjayate nahi pratakati hetu. Yes, sambutam api tatha samupaiti karya govindamadi purusham. So just like milk is transformed into yogurt, because false ego is the most subtle aspect, then that represents Rudra. Is that okay?
Yes, sure, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. So 37. Let's go ahead. I think Arundhati Mataji.
Oh, sorry. Correction. The Virat Purusha's face is the Brahmanas, his arms are the Kshatriyas, his thighs are the Vaishyas, and the Shudras are under the protection of his feet. All the worshipable demigods are also overtaken by him, and it is the duty of everyone to perform sacrifice with feasible goods to appease the Lord.
So here it is said Brahmanas are what? The face, arms are the Kshatriyas, thighs are the Vaishyas, and Shudras are under the protection of his feet. So why Brahmanas face? Because Brahmanas are actually connected with the intelligence, right? They actually are supposed to study the Shastras and give the Shastras. Why the Kshatriyas is the arms? Because the duty of the Kshatriyas to protect. Right? To protect. And thighs as the Vaishyas, because Vaishyas are supposed to do, get resources, right? Resources. And then here it says worshipable demigods are actually also overtaken by him. So all the worshipable demigods, they are actually a part of this Virat Purusha. And Prabhupada in the purport says this certainly indicates the concept of monotheism. Only one God, and all the different demigods are what? The part and parcel of this, right? So there's only one God. They're not like how Hindus say, so many gods, everyone is God. Actually, there's only one God. And everyone, all these demigods are part and parcel of this original God. That's the first point Prabhupada made. Second point, which is actually saying in its verse, it says that everyone, including all the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, all the demigods, everyone, it's a duty of everyone to perform sacrifices with feasible goods, dravya atmaka, to please the Lord. What does it mean to do sacrifice with feasible goods?
With our ability.
Okay, with our best of our abilities, sure. That's a good one. And then what else?
Just doing the charity, right?
Okay. See, the point is here it says buy feasible goods. Feasible goods. So what does feasible goods mean? So, Prabhupada explained the point in the purport. He says, normally yajna means what offering do we do? Ghee. We do ghee and the swaha we offer, right? Now, Prabhupada actually says that we should learn not only to do sacrifices with ghee, that aspect is there, but also with all the manufactured goods should be actually used in the mood of sacrifice. That means what? Can we use our cell phone as a sacrifice for Vishnu? Yes, you can use. You can actually share photos of Radha Golokananda. You can use it for preaching. You can actually use it for discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhakti Vaibhav group. We get questions and really makes us think and share realizations. So we can use. So Prabhupada says any manufactured good can be used as an offering to sacrifice. Like what? Any other examples of manufactured goods that can use for the pleasure of the Lord?
Any equipment we use in the kitchen for Radharani.
Yeah, any equipment, right? You have your mixer,
Appliances.
your grinder that you're using as a sacrifice. Then what else?
Or cars.
Cars.
Yeah, we use our cars. We go, we buy bhoga for the Lord. We come to the temple. Is there any object, manufactured good, that cannot be used as sacrifice? No. Everything that is there, we can use it in the service of the Lord. And that is the vision of a devotee, that anything he sees, any object he sees, say, how can I use this in the service of the Lord? So that's the point of Prabhupada says, manufactured goods in the propagation of the glory of the Lord. Okay. And then Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that the real sacrifice for this age is what? Harinam Sankirtan, chanting the name of the Lord. So everyone, whether it's Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, should actually do their contribution so that we can come and do Harinam Sankirtan all over the world. The Brahmana should actually talk about the importance of Harinam Sankirtan, right? Should actually say what is the right mood of doing Harinam Sankirtan. The Kshatriyas should make all facilities. The Vaishya should actually bring the mridangas, the drums, everything. And then everyone should go out and actually do Harinam Sankirtan. Okay. Let's see, 45. Maybe we can take a break. There are 2 more verses. We'll complete. I also want to start the second chapter. We'll take a break since it's 45. Any comments? Any thoughts or any questions at this point?
Prabhuji, in the 7 layers of universal form, like one of the element is the ego, is the same one that is referring to the last verse, ego, Prabhuji?
Yeah, ego is actually one of the material elements, right? Krishna says bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, kam, mano, buddhir, evacha. So he's actually saying that ego is also one of the separated energies of the Lord, but it's very subtle. The mind, very subtle. We cannot say where is the mind. It's there. We know the mind is there, but we don't know where it is. So it's very subtle. So ego goes even more subtler. Very subtle form. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I was just thinking about this, that, I know this whole explanation on the Virat form, but Srila Prabhupada got us hooked to the real Bhagavan realization, and it's just the sweet form of Radha Golokananda, Shyamsundara. I know we all, at least I've started as a materialist, but by reading and hearing over and over again for Srila Prabhupada's purpose, we just got hooked to the real form of Krishna. And as I'm reading, I'm not able to connect. Oh yeah, this is about Virat form, but I was not able to go there. It's just all Prabhupada did the magic for us.
That's a good. There's one section from Chaitanya Charitamrita which actually I want to share about the devotee's perspective on this whole thing. And that's a really good thing, that we reading the Virat Purusha, but it's hard for us to actually relate to, right? And actually Prabhupada says in one of his purpose, he says, even for Arjun, it was very difficult for him to relate to that Virat Purusha. Arjun couldn't even accept the Virat Purusha. And then Krishna had to give him divine eyes in one way, and eyes to see that Virat Purusha, because for Arjun it was like, this is my Krishna right here. I don't know anyone beyond
this. He says, enough, so, come back to your original form.
Right? Prabhupada mentions that even for Arjun, Krishna had to give him a different set of eyes to actually see that form. And it was not for the benefit of Arjun. Arjun is already a pure devotee, but for the benefit of everyone else. So similarly for us, it's difficult for us to meditate on this, but we'll see the devotional aspect when we come back. But thank you, very nice point. That is actually Prabhupada has just like given us Bhagwan, Krishna, Shyam Sundar Bhagwan, and we don't know anyone beyond that. Very nice, thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I really like the point that the main reason of conflict is just not understanding our duty in relation to Krishna. If we understand that, then it will be complete harmony and love.
Wonderful. That's such an important point to me. Everyone is looking for peace and harmony. The real peace formula is right here. Bhuktaram Yagatapasam Sarvalokamayasha Suryadam Sarvabhutanam Gyatamam Shantim Vichati. That's the only way we can have that harmony, that peace in the world. When everyone understands their relationship with the Supreme, works in that relationship. Okay. Anything else? Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break and then we'll come back. So 8:55. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
One more time, a little louder with your heart. One more time, very loud. Mean it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please come back. Okay, so we can meditate on the point that if Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the forest of Jharkhand, he can make the tigers and the deer embrace each other and kiss each other by the power of the holy name, then even whatever the people in the world, like even the most opposite kind of people, can come together and chant the holy name and work together in the mood of cooperation. Okay, next let's read text number 38. I think Varsha.
I have thus explained to you the gross material gigantic conception of the personality of Godhead. One who seriously desires liberation concentrates his mind on this form of the Lord, because there is nothing more than this in the material world.
So we started off with the same, like if you see the word Sandharayate, even that was the starting of the description of the Virat Rupa in text 23 or 24. The same word that one must concentrate. And then there also it says Manaha Swabuddhaya. That also similar. We should concentrate with our mind with intelligence. Right? The same point is actually, we started the discussion, we are ending the discussion with the same point. And here Sukdev Goswami is saying, thus I have explained to you this gross material conception. And then he says, Na yataha asti kinchit. There is nothing more than this in the material world. So the entire material world, anything that we see in this material world is a manifestation of the Virat Purusha. That means for the Astanga Yogi, anything that he sees in the material world, he can actually connect it to the Virat Purusha. Prabhupada in the purport, he actually elaborates and he says that how it is the supreme personality of Godhead. Maya Dakshena Prakriti, by his glance, everything in this material world is actually happening. And then he says that anything material is actually going through the 6 kinds of transformations. What are the 6 kinds of transformations? Who knows?
Birth, growth.
Yeah, it comes into existence, it grows, then it produces some byproducts, then it decays, it dies. Which is the one I'm missing? Birth, birth, it stays for some time, it grows, then producing byproducts, decaying, die. What's the one I'm missing? You can say, what's the one I'm missing?
So birth, growth, stays for some time, produces byproducts, dwindles.
Growth and stays for some time is, I think, 2 separate. Yeah. Then it is 6. Right? Birth, growth, stays for some time, produces byproducts, decays, right? So these 6 kind of transformation. So here Prabhupada is saying that everything material goes through the 6 kind of transformations, and all that transformation happen because the Lord has actually glanced upon this material nature. So it is all because of the glance of the Lord. And then Prabhupada makes a point that, we discussed this, how the materialistic philosophers and scientists are too much engrossed with the atomic energy and the gigantic situation of the universal form, and they offer respect more seriously to the external phenomenal feature and ignoring the noumenal feature. That everyone is like, seeing this material thing, but they actually forget who is actually beyond all this, who is finally making these transformations happen. So they forget that principle. Right? And finally, one needs to come to the point that the Lord is simultaneously localized and also all pervasive. Right? He is in the heart as Paramatma, and yet at the same time, he is actually manifesting as the Virat Purusha. So Prabhupada's purport is kind of towards the end of Virat Purusha, explaining how the Lord is manifesting as both the Paramatma and also Virat Purusha. Both are actually the manifestation of the Lord. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Prabhupada also makes a point that wherever the mind is wandering because of its fickle nature, go here and there, one should actually use the intelligence and say like, oh, this is so and so limb of the Virat Purusha. This is so and so limb of the Virat. So for the Astanga Yogi, as soon as the mind is like, oh, going here, going there, immediately say, oh, going here, oh, this is also a part of Virat Purusha. This is also a part. So everything is trying to connect, and that way he can actually perfect his stage of dharana, right? And this is the whole topic, dharana. Okay, last verse.
Krishna, one should concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who alone distribute himself in so many manifestations, just as ordinary person create thousands of manifestations in dreams. One must concentrate the mind on him, the only all blissful absolute truth. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation.
So here in this verse, the last verse. Okay, before going to the last one, there's one point in the previous purport I missed, which I want to really stress. The Prabhupada says, because we see every aspect, as in connection with the Virat Purusha, or for devotees, everything in relationship to Krishna, hence we should learn the art of not committing any offense to the body of the Lord. What does that mean? One should learn the art of not committing any offense to the body of the Lord. So anything that we are seeing here, material, we should see it's all related to Krishna. So even if you see, Prabhupada, like when you talk about top achievements, travel all over the world, made so many devotees, established preaching, 108 Krishna conscious temples all around the world, wrote 80 books, all these. But yet, if you see, Prabhupada was so particular about not wasting any material resource. Like once there's a story that they were on a morning walk, right? And then Prabhupada just saw like towards a building and said like, can you not see? And all the disciples are wondering like, what is Prabhupada saying? Can you not see? They just saw the building, they couldn't relate it. And Prabhupada was pointing out that it was daytime and the light was still on. And Prabhupada said, like, can you not see? And there was another instance where there was water dripping from a faucet. And Prabhupada pointed out, why are you wasting the resources? So that way, as devotees, because we see everything in relationship to Krishna, we should be very careful not to waste these resources. Whether it's food, water, anything that we are getting from nature, should be very careful to see, okay, what is required for my existence? I'll use that. Beyond that, why should I waste all this? This is all Krishna's energy. So one should learn the art of not committing any offense to the body of the Lord, because we are seeing everything in relationship with the Lord. Okay, so very practical point. This is something that even day to day we can see, like, and another point came to mind. Like sometimes I see like, if you just drive down the road and if you see like, the trash bins, how weekly they put on the trash. See houses like so much garbage, like piles and piles of garbage around the thing. It's like, how much resources are they needing? Is that really required for their subsistence? How much they are wasting their resources? We should be very careful not to waste the resources that we have. Okay. A last verse says, otherwise one will be misled and will cause his own degradation. So in this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually making the point that one should concentrate his mind. And here he says Saha referring to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this section, he's talked about that entire Virat Purusha. And it's saying that how this Virat Purusha is distributing himself in so many manifestations, right? So every aspect of this material creation is a manifestation of the Virat Purusha. So one should just focus on the Virat Purusha and not be deviated by all these manifestations. And he's giving this example, just like in the dream. Like when we dream, we create so many different manifestations. Right? We see maybe like we are traveling from one place to another, and we may create that whole place where we are, or we create personalities. I know if you have this experience, but sometimes you see a dream and you're with someone you don't even know. It's like, who's that person? It's just like it's created by our mind, right? So similarly, all this entire material manifestation is just like a dream of that Supreme Virat Purusha. So one should not, just like in a dream, when you wake up from the dream, then you shouldn't think that, oh, in this dream, this person was there, that person, and start meditating. While chanting japa, we are thinking that, oh, what was in the dream? Oh, that dream was so good. Maybe I can again dream. What is the point? Right? That's all a dream. It's illusion. Right? So similarly, for an Astanga yogi, this entire material manifestation is like a dream-like existence. And hence, we should not get deviated by all these manifestations, but just focus on the source of all this manifestation. That is the Virat Purusha. One should just concentrate his mind on that Virat Purusha, and it is because of him all these manifestations are there. And then further, he actually takes it to the next point and he says, Ananda Nidhim bhajeta na anyatra sajet. Like the last line, if you see, he actually takes it that one must concentrate the mind on him who is the only all blissful absolute truth. So from that Virat Purusha, Sukdev Goswami is already taking it to the next stage that after meditation of Virat Purusha, whom should one focus on? The Paramatma in the heart. And it is this Paramatma which is described as the Anandam Nidhim. He's actually the ocean of bliss. So Virat Purusha, as such, there is no description of him as being the ocean of bliss. It's just like a stepping, like first step in God realization. But we have to bring it to the point of Paramatma, where we can actually experience the real bliss of that we are all looking for. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation. So from the Virat Purusha, one should elevate to Paramatma realization. And also another point, Prabhupada Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining in this verse, he actually says that when we meditate on the Lord, okay, there will be, like especially for the Astanga Yogi, when you are doing the process of Astanga Yoga, in Kali Yuga anyway, no one can do it, but when someone is doing, then one of the results that one enjoys from Astanga Yoga is what? One gets the Ashta Siddhi, the mystic perfection, 8 mystic perfection. So here, when Sukdev Goswami is saying that one should not be misled. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that actually while doing this Astanga Yogi, one will get the 8 mystic perfection, but one should not get misled by that. And how will one not be deviated from that? Then one must actually use the tool of, what tool should one use? The tool of discrimination. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that yes, we'll get this mystic perfection. And what is that mystic perfections? Like one can become lighter than a feather, heavier than a mountain, one can become really small, one can get anything he wants, one can change nature, all those perfections. But one should not be misled. Why? One should use by using the tool of discrimination. And what is that discrimination? And that Chakravarti Pad is saying that one should just think that, yes, with this, all these mystic perfections, I can do so many things. But actually, the mind has experienced all these thousands of impressions for so many lifetimes, but still it has not got happiness. So we should use that discrimination and say like, yes, for so many lifetimes, just like dreams, I have actually done so many manipulations of nature, but it's not permanent and I have not got happiness. Right? So hence, I should just worship the ocean of bliss, which is actually the Paramatma in the heart. Okay? So that's basically this verse. So Prabhupada in purport, he actually makes a point that Virat Rupa is like the super soul of all beings. And then from that, we have the manifestation of Narayan. And then from that, we have the manifestation of Krishna, right? Therefore, one should unhesitatingly become a worshipper of Krishna. And one should not be misled from that path. Yeah, so that is the point. So for an Astanga yogi, right? Astanga yogi, the reasons for him to become misled is the Ashta Siddhis. Right? For us devotees, is there any reasons for us to get misled from our path of bhakti? Like in the sense, like we are engaging in bhakti, and we may get certain things, and we should not be misled by those things. What are those things? Anyone can think about it? What are the benefits of bhakti that as a side benefit we get those things, that we should be very careful not to indulge in those things? You understand my question?
We get recognition, we get
Mission, okay.
positions.
Position, okay, yeah. You know, you're like, oh, they are doing Krishna consciousness. This person is doing Krishna consciousness for 20 years. Such an elevated devotee. Oh, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, come and offer obeisances. So we should not be misled by that. Okay, what else?
I can think of one, the offenses of holy name, performing sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. Like when you chant, you get the strength and not commit any.
Okay, not committing offenses. Yeah, okay.
Become too much comfortable here that we stop thinking that what's the goal.
Yeah.
We think, okay, it's everything here.
As we progress in bhakti, we're like, oh yeah, I've been doing Mangala Aarti every day for last 5 years. Now I can take a break. I can take a break. We can be careful of this. So actually, there's a beautiful section in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the section of Gundicha Marjana. So which comes in Madhya Leela chapter 12, I think, where Bhakti Saraswati Thakur actually explains what are these benefits of bhakti that comes, we should be very careful of. Right? So he actually explains that our whole process is that of the cleaning of the heart. But there are two levels of cleaning. Right? First level of cleaning is where we clean our heart of like yes, we want to progress in our bhakti, but sometimes the bhakti is associated with karma, with gyan, with all those things. Right? So we want to come to the point of pure bhakti. So we should come to the stage of anya bhilasita sunya, jnana karmadi kanamita. We should be free of any other desire. There should be no contamination in bhakti in terms of economic development or in terms of mental speculation. That is the first level of cleaning. The second level, which is very important, and why is the section explained? Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he cleaned the Gundicha level temple. First he cleaned, and then he does second level of cleaning, right? So the second level is actually made, and it says like 6 points are said. You can remember these points. As we progress in bhakti, the first thing that could be an obstacle that could mislead us from the path of bhakti is fault finding. Fault finding. As we progress, then what will happen? Oh, 16 rounds in the morning. Oh, this person, he's chanting till night 11 o'clock. We start to see faults in other people. Or we see like, oh, he's not a Brahmana. He's like his initiative. But, we see so many faults. So first is, as we progress, yes, we are actually perfecting. And because of that, we may see that, oh, maybe that person's level is not. So we may have the tendency of fault finding. So we should be very careful. That's called kutinati. Second is pratishtasa. We should be very careful for the desire for fame. Oh, I am 20-year devotee. When we go inside, people should offer me respect. That desire for fame, prestige. Right? That's second one. Third one is jiva himsa. That means envy. We start envying other living entities. Like even within the devotee circle, there may be some kind of envy. Right? That's the third one. Fourth one is accepting things which are forbidden in Shastra. As Varshana Priya Mataji was saying, that we could actually get complacent and saying, now I am okay. Once in a while I can do this. We start accepting things which may be forbidden in Shastra. Fifth one is a desire for material gain. As we are progressing in bhakti, that desire for gain may come that by bhakti, because I'm serving Krishna, Krishna should provide with everything, right? And that may be something beyond what is actually required. We start expecting material gain. And the sixth one is puja, hankering for popularity. So these 6 are actually the byproducts of bhakti that one should be careful while engaging in the path of bhakti. Right? And for the Astanga Yogi, what is it? The mystic siddhis could be a cause of deviation. Okay. Now, one last section I want to cover on this chapter is that of how do we see.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, second point and sixth point, desire for fame and hankering for popularity are the same, right, Prabhuji?
Kind of similar, probably, yeah. A little bit they are related. But one is more, in terms of popularity, means you want everyone to know. I am such a great devotee, right? And the other one, desire for fame, may be more of like, recognition. When you walk somewhere, then people should offer obeisances to me. It's related very much, but one could be seen on a more general level, and one is like more one-to-one interaction. Is that okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So one last section. You're ready?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, you said 2 levels of cleaning. I missed the first level.
First level is just to come to the point of pure bhakti.
Oh, from Mishra Bhakti to pure Bhakti.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Jnana, karma, anavrita. Right. So our bhakti may be covered by mental speculation, fruitive activities. You have to come to pure bhakti. Now, the last section, this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So when there's a conversation between Ramananda Rai and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? After the whole conversation, Ramananda Rai says, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I was seeing you, but I was seeing you as a sannyasi, right? A sannyasi. But now I am seeing you as Radha and Krishna. And in response to that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells this section, very beautiful. He says, Mahabhagavata dekhe stavara jangna tahan tahan hoy tanra Shri Krishna spurana. A devotee who's advanced on the spiritual platform sees everything movable and inert as the Supreme Lord. This is the vision of a devotee. So here, Astanga Yogi, he's seeing everything, he's connecting to the Virat Purusha. But how is a devotee see? Everything movable and inert, he's seeing as the Supreme Lord. For him, everything he sees here and there is but a manifestation of Krishna. Okay, and the next verse says, Stavara Jangma dekhe, na dekhe tara murti, sarvatra hoy nija ishtadev spurti. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Everywhere he's seeing, he sees the form of the Supreme Lord. And you should read this purport, beautiful purport. It gives the entire devotional perspective on this. This is CC Madhya, chapter 12, text number 274. Okay, Matthew 274. In the purport, Prabhupada actually says, due to his deep, this ecstatic love for Krishna, because he loves Krishna so much that everywhere he sees, he actually sees his Krishna. Right? And Prabhupada gives the example. He says, Rasoham apsu konteya. When he drinks water, what does he think? Oh, this water is the taste of Krishna. And hence he remembers Krishna, right? And then when he sees the sun, right, it says, Rasoham apsu konteya, prabhasmi shashi surya. When he sees the sun, what does he think? Prabhupada says here,
The light of the sun and the moon.
like I'm actually saying, as soon as we see the sunrise in the morning, we arise and set about doing our morning duty. Similarly, as soon as a devotee sees the energy of the Lord, he immediately remembers Lord Shri Krishna. Right? So anywhere he sees, oh, sun is rising. Well, now is the time to do what? Chant the names of Krishna or serve Krishna. That's how a devotee sees. Right? A devotee who has purified his existence to devotional service sees only Krishna in every step of his life. That's the vision of a devotee. And then further that section, that entire section is very beautiful. Further that section is described as how the plants, creepers, the trees which are full of fruits and flowers. How did in Krishna book is described, right? When Krishna was seeing the beautiful forest of Vrindavan, what did he think? He says, all these branches, the fruits and everyone, they are actually bending down. But why are they bending down? Because they are offering obeisances to Balaram. So much in ecstasy. So that is the mood in which, so we see fruits, we see flowers. Say, oh, they're offering obeisances to Krishna. In that way, that is the vision of the devotee of the Lord.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. What text it is? You said 274.
Yeah, this is good.
I don't see 274 in
It's
there.
chapter 8.
Oh,
not
not
12.
Oh, chapter 8. Yes, it's chapter 8. Sorry. Chapter 12 is that Gundicha Mardana. Sorry. Yeah, chapter 8. And then further Prabhupada says that devotee knows how to utilize everything in the service of the Lord, right? And that is the mood of one devotee. And then the last verse says, Radha Krishna tumhara maha prema hoya, yahan tahan Radha Krishna tumhare spuraya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, my dear Ramananda Rai, you are an advanced devotee and always filled with ecstatic love for Radha and Krishna. Therefore, whatever you see, anywhere and everywhere, simply awakens your Krishna consciousness. That is the mood of the devotee. Anything we see, it is just awakening our Krishna consciousness. Okay, so any questions on this entire chapter? So this chapter, we started out, the first 14 verse, very important, directly answering Maharaj Parikshit's question. And he talks about what one should not hear, what one should not chant, one should not remember. And then he says what one should remember. Tasmat Bharata Sarvata Bhagwan Ishvaro Hari. Right? Shrutavya Kirtitavyasya Smartavyasya Cha Ishtata Bhayam. And then he talks about different kinds of personalities. Etavan, Sankhya, Yoga, Bhyam, like those who are into Sankhya or doing yoga, or Swadharma, they are karma, they're attached to their duties, occupations, all of them. For them, what is the goal? Final goal is Ante Narayana Smriti. Then Hare Namanu Kirtanam is the conclusion. Then he talks about like how even one moment which is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness is more precious than a very long lifetime, right? And then he comes to this entire section on Astanga Yoga and Maharaj Parikshit's question about who is the object of dharana, and then he's focused here on Virat Purusha. And then the next aspect is that of focusing on the super soul in the heart. Right? So chapter 2 is titled as what? The Lord in the heart, because it's talking of the Paramatma, which is the other Dharana Shraya. One Dharana Shraya is Virat Purusha, one Dharana Shraya is Paramatma. Those who are attached, Dharana Shraya is Virat Purusha. Those who are not attached, the Dharana Shraya is Paramatma. Okay, any comments, questions, realizations?
Prabhuji, I was just thinking that how Hanumanji also have all the Ashtasiddhis, but he uses them in the service of Lord Ram.
Wonderful. That's a very nice example.
Yes, I about to say. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna Prabhuji,
Good.
can I ask you?
Yes.
So why he's talking about Paramatma realization instead of Bhagavan in this chapter?
Okay. What is the flow of this section? If you see the flow, we are still focusing on Astanga Yoga.
Right.
And why is Sukadeva Goswami talking of Astanga Yoga? He's already talked of Bhakti in the first 14 verses and given the conclusion. Why is he now describing Astanga Yoga?
In the assembly, there are all different stages, different levels of devotees are there.
So now, for that Astanga Yoga, one aspect of the 8 is Dharana. Right? Now, Dharana, because these personalities are not at the stage where they can directly accept Bhagavan as a supreme personality of Godhead, for them the object of worship is either Virat Purusha or the Lord in the heart. Right? And then at the end of the second chapter, again Sukadeva Goswami will conclude by saying, finally, it is Bhagavan. We have to come to the realization of Bhagavan, but this is just step by step. For Astanga Yogi, Virat Purusha, Paramatma.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Venkat Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Prabhuji, like in the discussion, you mentioned like one moment of Krishna consciousness will help, will make us perfect or something, Prabhuji. Like we chant, at least sometimes, at least chants nicely with the deep attention. Is that one moment? How can we understand that, Prabhuji? How can we correlate?
So I mentioned this point last time when we discussed the section, that actually it just requires that one moment, but that one moment with complete absorption in Krishna. Right? But right now, because we have so many attachments, so many anarthas, our absorption, even in our best rounds, may not be that 100% absorption in Krishna. Because that one name of Krishna, if you're chanting in complete absorption, then tears should flow from your eyes. You know, like one class in Indramna Swami Maharaj, he made this point in one of the classes. He said, like, all our devotional activities, all our services in the temple, all our chanting, reading, everything associated is finally to come to that point that one day we can sit in one corner of a room and chant one sincere name of Krishna, and by that chanting, tear will flow in our eyes. It all comes to that one point where we can really chant, and in that sincere mood, a tear flows from our eyes that we are really calling out for Krishna. Right? So, so that that one moment, it's just talking on that one moment where we can 100% be absorbed. But as I mentioned, how will that absorption come? By giving our time to Krishna. So more we engage our time in service of Krishna, the more Krishna will give us the gift of absorption in a single moment. Okay. So it's 9:27 now. We'll do chapter 2 also. But okay, I'll give you an overview of chapter 2. And then stop. And then we can do the first verse. Okay, actually we can do the first verse because that first verse is tied up with the previous chapter, right? So let's do the first verse. The overview of this chapter is so he's talking of Astanga Yoga here, but there are still, so see, he talked of bhakti. He talked of bhakti in first 14 words, but still he saw in the assembly people were not agreeing. You know, like when you're giving a class and you say something, and if people look confused, then you know, okay, something like maybe I'm speaking too high or something is not right. Then immediately he saw that, he realized, okay, they are not ready for bhakti. Let's talk of Astanga. And he's talking of Astanga, and still he saw, well, people are actually not accepting still. In the assembly, Sukdev Goswami's thought, people are still not accepting Astanga Yoga. And maybe some people are thinking that now is the last moment for Parikshit Maharaj, 7 days here. Maybe he should actually worship the demigods so that he can go to Swargalok. That is the actually duty he should do. So Sukdev Goswami could see that. And hence, the first section of this chapter, he actually rejects that Karma Kanda section where people will worship demigods to get Swargaloka. Right? So you see, he started with bhakti, then he saw, oh, no, Astanga Yoga. Oh, no, come even lower, Karma Kanda. Okay, let's reject this. Then he'll come back to this. Then he'll come back to bhakti. So that's basically second chapter. He'll reject Karma Kanda. Then he will come to continue the discussion of Astanga Yoga. And then he'll conclude with bhakti. Right? That's basically the flow of this chapter. So let's read the text one. Ratnareka, you want to Sanskrit?
Shishuka Uvacha.
Oh, okay, Sanskrit. Sorry.
I'll just do Sanskrit. Evam puradharanayatmayonir ashtam smritim pratyavarutya tushtat tatasa sarjedam amakadrishtir yatap yat prag vyavasaya buddhi.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Sukadev Goswami said, formerly, prior to the manifestation of the cosmos, Lord Brahma, by meditating on the Virat robe, regained his lost consciousness by appeasing the Lord. Thus, he was able to rebuild the creation as it was before. Hare Krishna.
So you can see Sukadev Goswami, he's describing Astanga Yoga, meditate on Virat Purusha, and he see people are still not convinced. There's still people with like question mark on their face. And then he's saying, Okay, maybe let me tell one example. Is there any example of a personality who performed meditation on Virat Rupa and progressed in a spiritual journey? So he talks about that example in this word. And who is that? So, so basically he's saying, who is that personality? So in Sanskrit you see Atma Yonihi. Atma Yonihi is referring to Brahmaji. So Sukadeva Goswami is giving the example of Brahmaji himself. And then he says, when did he actually progress in spiritual journey by meditating on Virat Rupa? He says Pura. Pura means prior to the manifestation of the cosmos. Right? So we talked of who, we talked of when. Right? Now, what is the transformation? What was the effect of his meditation on Virat Rupa? So initially he was Nashtam Smritim. See the Sanskrit? Nashtam Smritim. Smritim means what? Smriti. Remembrance. Nashta Smriti means he lost his remembrance, or he lost his remembrance. And then he transformed his consciousness from the state of forgetfulness to the state of Pratyaya Varudhya. Pratyaya Varudhya means he regained his consciousness. So three things are talked about. Right? So initially, what was his state? Initially, his state was that of Nashta Smriti, that forgetful state or the state of lost remembrance. From that, he meditated on Virat Purusha and he got three benefits. And it's very nice, these three benefits. Even we can meditate for a path of bhakti. First is Pratyaya Varudhya. He regained his consciousness. So even our human form of life is actually meant for, it is much developed consciousness than other living entities. And if this human form of life, in this consciousness, if we are actually using for animal propensities, then the consciousness gets covered, right? So when we take up the process of Bhakti Yoga, then we regain that consciousness and finally we come to Krishna consciousness. So one is Pratyaya Varudhya. Second result is Amoga Drishti. Drishti means what? Vision. Amoga means clear vision, right? So he attained clear vision. So Brahma, when he did this, so we know initially, like when Brahma was born, he just saw darkness everywhere. But then after that meditation, then he could see things as they are. He got that clear vision. He knew what was his purpose of existence and what he's supposed to do. Third result is Buddhi Vyavasaya. Buddhi Vyavasaya means his intelligence was ascertained. That means, why do we hear this word Vyavasaya?
Vyavasayatmika.
Yes, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. What is that Buddhi? That Buddhi is a one-pointed intelligence where when we actually take shelter of Krishna. Right? So these three things, he says. You get Pratyaya Varudhya, you regain your consciousness. Amoga Drishti, he attained clear vision, and he got Vyavasaya Buddhi. His intelligence was ascertained. So Prabhupada explains that means in Brahma's case, he received inspiration from the Lord in his heart to actually do that entire aspect of creation. So even in a path of bhakti, as we progress, what do we get? We get inspiration, that inspiration in the heart, which comes as how Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse? Dadami Buddhi Yogam. Right? When we engage in bhakti, what happens? Dadami Buddhi Yogam. Krishna himself in the heart gives us that intelligence. So that is the third aspect. And what was his process actually? Process of Brahmaji? He meditated on the Virat Rupa, but there is one other word that is used. That's called Tushtat. Tushtat means to please the Lord. So any form of meditation, finally, it has to be with a tinge of what? Bhakti. Right? And that is the word Tushtat. So Brahma also, he was meditating on Virat Rupa, but finally his desire was to please the Lord. Right? That was the process. And what is the final result for Brahmaji is actually he sasarja. He could create the material world. Right? So this verse is clear. So he says, who is that personality who attained progress by meditation on Virat Rupa? Brahmaji. Right? Who? When did he attain? When previous, prior to manifestation of cosmos. What was the transformation? Initially, he had Nashta Smritim to regain his consciousness, attain clear vision, and his intelligence was ascertained. Three benefits. And then what was the result? The result was He could recreate this material world. And then what is the process? He meditated on the Virat Rupa to please the Lord. Right? And that is the example for this. Okay. So Prabhupada in the purport says, he talks about forgetfulness. Right? So he says the example cited herein of Sri Brahmaji is one of forgetfulness. And Prabhupada says all living entities up to the stage of Brahma are forgetful. What are we forgetful of?
Our relationship with Krishna.
Yeah, our relationship with Krishna. Okay, what else are we forgetfulness of?
Real nature.
Yeah, who we are. We have forgetfulness. We don't even know who we are. We think I'm this body, I'm Indian, I'm this, I'm that. Right? And what else are we forgetful of?
That we are going to die.
Yeah, we forget we are going to die. Yes. What else? Anything else?
Our constitutional,
sorry,
Our constitutional nature.
Position on that we are servants of Krishna.
I forget that we are servants of Krishna. Okay.
And yes, we are part and parcel of the Lord.
So three main divisions. So all the points are right. First is we forget what is our identity. Second, we forget what is our duty. And third, we forget what is our goal. And this all can be said in terms of Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojan. Who are we? What is our identity? Who is God? What is the relation? Then what is the process, right? So what is our identity? What is our duty? And finally, what is our goal? So you can challenge people. Do you know we claim to be so great? So many papers, publications, this, scientists, PhD, all these things. But do we know what is our identity, what is our duty, and what is our goal? Right? So we are forgetful of these three things. Right? But what is the way we can actually revive that forgetfulness? Right? And Prabhupada talks about as soon as we meditate upon Krishna, as soon as we remember Krishna, that is the way we can take away this forgetfulness. Right? And for us, practically, what does it mean? As soon as people hear the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that's why we go out for Harinam Sankirtan. As soon as people hear Harinam, that is the start of them reviving their consciousness. That is the start of it. Just like Prabhupada gives an example. Like if there's a patient who has amnesia, he forgets. Like even if a wife comes in front, he's like, oh, who is she? And children come, who are they? I don't remember anything. And what is the treatment for one who has amnesia? They'll actually bring the photos of saying, see, this is your house, this is your car, and this is, you did this here, you used to play here, you used to do this, right? And then, oh yeah, that's it, now I remember. So similarly, we are forgetful. How can that forgetfulness be taken away? By actually connecting, somehow or other connecting with Krishna. And that connection in Kali Yuga is through the holy name. Okay, right. And then the last point Prabhupada says in the purport, he says, what is liberation? When we actually revive our consciousness, when all the forgetfulness goes away, then we are actually in a liberated state. And what is that liberation? The last sentence. Liberation is never inaction, but service without human mistakes. Right? Liberation is never inaction, but service without human mistakes. It's not that once the forgetfulness goes away, then we become like, we come to the stage of Brahman. No, that's not complete liberation. Liberation means active engagement. Just like a person who's lost his memory, he may be showed photos and then he remembers. But that is not perfection. That means after that, he has to come and restore his regular life, right? If he's in a hospital and says, okay, now I remember everything. That's not perfection. He has to come out of the hospital and say, okay, now let me resume, right? So similar liberation means to resume our original spiritual connection with Krishna. So that's the last point for us. Okay. So we can think about these: regain consciousness, attain clear vision, and intelligence is actually inspired by the Lord. So this is example of Brahmaji. So Sukadeva Goswami gives, oh, see, Brahmaji attained progress by this. right? So everyone, you should now be convinced, but still people are not convinced in that assembly. Then he goes and he rejects karma kanda. So that we'll discuss next time. Okay. Okay. So anything else? Any comments or any questions on the group that I did not answer? Otherwise, we can stop here. Any final comments, questions, realizations? It's okay. The connection between chapter 1, chapter 2, the flow of the Bhagavatam, and what is Virat Purusha, the entire why it is described, why that is Dharana Shaya, why this chapter is titled Lord in the Heart, and how he's talking of, like, if you see Astanga Yoga Dharana Shaya, he's talking of Virat Purusha, then naturally next he should talk of Paramatma, right? But in between there is a section, why the section comes. Right? So everyone, all these questions, any of these questions are not clear? Anyone? It's all clear, this entire questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Sorry. Prabhuji, like the titles are there in the Sanskrit Bhagavatam, are these titles given by Prabhupada while he's doing the translation?
Actually, if you see that Prabhupada is not Prabhupada himself, Prabhupada is just following the commentary of the previous acharyas, going all the way to Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami is supposed to be like the first commentator of the Bhagavatam. So, certainly when Sukdev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit were talking, it wasn't that, okay, first chapter, now we are in, go to the second. That was just like Bhagavad Gita. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita also, it was a conversation, 45 minutes. But later on, at some point, our acharyas just divided it so that we can understand it better. So similarly, the Bhagavatam is like a whole conversation, but at some point in the line, maybe Sridhar Swami or one of the acharyas prior who actually explained Bhagavatam, they divided this into so many chapters.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Like even like if you see Ramayana, right? So if you see even in Valmiki Ramayana, there is Sundar Kanda, Bal Kanda, like all these different kandas are there, right? But Ramayana, the whole thing is a story, but Valmiki himself has divided this so that we can say, okay, this is this section, this is this part of the life, and so on. Similarly, our acharyas have done that, and Prabhupada is just continuing from that point. Anything else, anyone? Okay, so one thing, like, please keep up with the reading. We are not doing so many verses per week. So at least, like, when you go back during the week, you should like try to read all the section, and just even a simple comment, just post on the group, and it will inspire everyone else. But somehow other, see, our goal of Bhakti Vaibhav is, yes, we are studying Bhagavatam, we are getting all this knowledge, we are relishing Bhagavatam, it's so wonderful. We are getting that deep appreciation of Bhagavatam. But practically also on the side, we should have it that not one day passes where we have not read Bhagavatam. How we chant 16 rounds every day. Similarly, even at least 10 minutes Bhagavatam study every day. And 10 minutes is doable. Like even while you are like, waiting in line at the grocery store, you can open your phone and you can just quickly read. But that's additional, but 10 minutes at least, like, where you sit without distraction, really reading Bhagavatam, minimum at least 10 minutes. So like last time it was like, I think 7 pages per day to read the entire section. 7 pages per day, like if you want to read it, like, carefully, maybe 20 minutes. If you're writing notes, it'll take more time, but at least every day, take time and study Bhagavatam. This is a Mad Eka Badhu Mat Sangin. Right? He's a real friend. Mad Eka Badhu. You see Kadam Khan Swami Maharaj also. In his last, like he gave that last lecture, right? It's 15 minutes. And how does he start off that lecture? Where he's talking about directly from Srimad Bhagavatam. Directly starts off by talking about Bhagavatam. So our entire consciousness should be so prepared that we are always Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam, Bhagavatam. Our life is Bhagavatam. So when we come to the final exam, where will we turn to? Turn to the holy name, turn to Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So thank you all so much for your sincerity and your dedication to say Bhagavatam. Granta Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhuvescha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all. Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to all
Hare
of you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much, Babuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.